Well, even with some friendly reporting over the last week or so with regard to inflation, we are seeing bonds under some pressure today. And the reason is something that we've discussed many times. We're going to dive in and talk about it on today's call. So let's dive right in and look at the numbers. We were a little bit lower several days ago than we are today. We were sitting in the Mortgage News daily tracking for a 30-year fixed rate loan. This is a national average, 7.02% today. We were at 6.97% this time last week, and we were at 7.1 30 days ago. So we're a little better than we were a month ago. We're not as good as we were this time last week. And here's what's pressuring bonds higher, y'all. Even with a nice read on CPI that should have helped us this last week, and that was even backed up with better numbers on the producer price index. So we had a good week last week with regard to inflationary reporting. We even had jobless claims bring in a 4% unemployment rate, which was worse than expected, and that should have been good news for the bond market, and in the short term it was. However, the Congressional Budget Office, the CBO, today issued guidance that they undershot their estimate for where we would be borrowing for fiscal year 2024. The market was accepting a $1.6 trillion number of a federal deficit for this current year. That means the government's going to have to issue bonds of $1.6 trillion to cover the deficit just for fiscal 2024. Remember, if we don't take in enough revenue in taxes to cover the amount of money that we spent, we have to borrow the difference, y'all. And when you put that much debt on the marketplace, you have to sell bonds to cover all of that. When you have to adjust that supply upward with these revisions, the CBO today came out and said, yep, that $1.6 trillion y'all were preparing for, it's not accurate. We're going to need $2 trillion to cover this year's shortfall. So they underestimated their borrowing for fiscal 2024 by $400 billion. Big miss to the wrong side of that equation, y'all. Market was not prepared for the additional supply that's going to be necessary to cover that differential. So it has to price in all of that additional supply of bonds. That pushes the price of bonds down, because remember, supply and demand always works. Doesn't matter what the scale is. When you put that much more supply of bonds on the marketplace, the price of each one of those is going to come down. The yield paid on those bonds is going to go up. Those yields are our rates. That's why you're seeing that shortfall in the CPO's accounting as hitting the bond market pretty hard. So we're seeing a bit of a sell-off today and yesterday in bonds as a result. That's why rates have ticked up a little bit. Y'all, we've preached on this so many times on these videos. Until our federal government listens to our voices, and until we are vocal enough to get their attention to limit the spending to what we take in, we're going to have problems with interest rates. The Fed can only do so much. The Fed cannot completely interrupt the supply side of this equation. We've got to get government spending in check. So take that for what it's worth. Bit of a political statement on the call today. We can't keep spending more than we're taking in. That's just the flat out bottom line, and expect interest rates to come down. They won't. In any event, hope this information is helpful for you and for your clients. As always, I'm going to keep an eye on it and report back next week. Stay blessed. Stay safe. We will see you then.